about to press the button. Press
Button has
the
been
button.
pressed. Hello, everybody.
Press.
Thank you for coming out
Hey.
and watching and listening, of course, to the Real Short Box. Just a real quick introduction. I'm Donald. This is Kevin. That's Jarrett. And that's Darren. And we're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff today. But our while we wait to get everybody rolling in here, people for questions and stuff like that in our chats and stuff and viewers, let's discuss a few other quick topics. Gentlemen?
Well, if I may go a little morbid, but out of respect, of course, one of my favorite game show hosts, and I'm sure to many of you as well, had passed away yesterday, Mr. Alex Trebek, and God rest his soul. He was someone who I enjoyed watching on TV. Very educational, that show. Yeah, childhood. I mean,
Yeah.
Much like Chadwick Boseman, he fought and worked, to the very end. Very brave man, and I heard he was a really decent man too. So,
they're gonna show his well, he's Canadian, they're all decent.
Yeah.
They're gonna show the final Jeopardy episode that he was on Christmas Day, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, they shot enough episodes to run through the rest of the year, basically.
I think that's very sweet. I think that's very sweet.
Yeah.
And he did do a final I guess you could say outro or final end like ahead of time. So they'll probably will air. Yeah, they'll probably air that as well. Like we did because he kind of knew.
Kind of like what they did on Saturday Night Live with the Dunkin' Donuts guy when he was like, "Time to make the donuts and time to die," and they were like, "No,
Yeah,
no,
I'm
you
gonna
can't."
laugh at that one. Yeah, no, I mean Alex Trebek. I mean he's kind of an institution, which I think to be, it's one celebrity you don't think about until you stop to think and you say, wow, Alex Trebek is an extremely accomplished person. I mean, just working in TV, I mean, it could be hard enough to get through one season of anything, let alone 30, 40 seasons.
36.
36. I mean, that's supremely impressive. I mean, I put him right up there with, Pat Sajak and all those other folks.
Bob Barker, all those
Bob
guys.
Barker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an impressive thing because, some of these guys, especially like Captain Kangaroo, I always use as a great example. Captain Kangaroo was a very talented.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. This is I posted, guys, everybody, by the way, but you're all froze but me. Yeah, go figure. I don't know, you're all frozen. I'm the only one that can move and hey everybody, everybody, quickly, quickly, my mom is on, so say hello everybody. Mom, you probably can't see, you can't, she does, very much so. Yeah, I know, Mom, you can't see anybody else but me move or talk, so, but they're all there, trust me. Don't know why they're all frozen, but you're, I don't know. Mom, is everybody frozen for you? Can you see? Kevin, you've been drinking this bottle of water for a long time. Yeah, I can see you all on Skype, no problem, moving around and stuff. But my mom says that you're fine, you're moving around and stuff. So maybe it's just my programming over here that you're all frozen. So, hey Enrique, thanks for tuning in. Chris says that you guys are frozen for him as well. Very odd, gentlemen. Let me try to. I'm going to kick you guys off one by one. So, Jared, I'm going to kick you off first and try to bring you back in. Don't do anything yet. Yeah. Okay. Kevin, I'm dropping you. Darren, you've been dropped. Currently, it's all on me, guys. The star of the show right here, right now, in this instant. It's all me. Nobody else on here. No one whatsoever. I am supreme. I am. Oh, hey, there's Jarrett. Just a picture of him though. He's still frozen. Jarrett, let's go ahead and have you sign out and then jump back in on the call. Okay? Not right now. We'll have you stay on and Darren stay on. We'll have Jarrett drop out first. Yeah, we've never had this happen, so I apologize everybody for this technical difficulty. Yes, you are. So Kevin, go ahead and drop out and then come back in. Okay. Kevin is out. Okay, if you guys stand by with us for just a moment, we'll see if we can fix this issue. Kevin, go ahead, and your old picture's back up, just to let you know. Okay, Darren, go ahead and drop out and come back in. Yep, I think we got it fixed here, or we will have it fixed. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be starting here in a second officially.
Good.
Kevin will want to do the introduction, I'm sure. Okay, Darren, you're fine as well. So, Kevin, go ahead and take it away if we don't have anything else to discuss.
All right. It's been a while, ladies and gentlemen, but once again, all four of the short boxers have returned. Welcome to the most stupendous, most righteous, and the sweetest podcast on planet Earth today, the real short box. I am going to introduce to you my three short box brethren. First, he is the Count of Youngstown, Ohio. He always, and vigorously walks with the big stick of truth. He is a master technician thespian of the cinematic arts. Ladies and gentlemen, the debonair of modern day masculinity. He is Darren.
Oh yeah.
Next, he is the chairman and the CEO of the Real Short Box. He is a man who is dedicated to being DC for life. He is also known as the Scottish Laird and Lord of North Hollywood. He is a master collector of Silver Age comics. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. 1997 Teen Ohio, the original Donald.
Thank you, thank you.
And last, and of course, never the least, he is the man from Napa Valley. He brings coolness to every area of the planet that he ventures off to. He is the president and the CEO of the Black Adam and Luke Cage fan club. Ladies and gentlemen, the Marquise of Napa Valley, sweet white chocolate. He is simply known as Jared.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And of course, I am your humble podcaster, the Grand Master of the Jedi and Vulcan Arts, your Supreme Chancellor, Dr. Kevin.
It was so humble. You're the Supreme Chancellor, the Jedi Master, and the King of the Vulcans.
Hey,
Yeah,
you know.
he's a very humble man. Kevin is, that's one thing you got to appreciate about him is his humbleness.
I mean, honestly, he'd completely turn me off if it wasn't for that hat.
Oh.
Well, Kevin, just so you
I got
know.
it all posted. We're good. We're good to go.
Yeah? Oh, great.
We'll post them.
So we're discussing today ranking the Pixar films, guys. So we need to really move on this fast because our list, it's 22 films, so it's going to take a bit. And let me just say that this was a bit of a back and forth. This was, I think, Darren calling me dumb. This was me calling Darren uneducated. This was Kevin saying, I'm going to cry if you guys keep yelling. This is Jarrett saying, everybody's stupid but me. So this was a hard one for us. We battled back and forth to get our movies represented in this list in the way that it should be. It is, for some, more so than others, and that's just the way it's going to be, of course, with anything like this. We try our best, and when you watch it, we're always curious as to what you guys think about our rankings and where you would rank your films or your choices. Obviously, the Cars films are not going to be very extremely high on the list.
What?
Particularly the sequels.
Take my input.
I know you had them ranked at 1 and 2, Jarrett, but it's a little tough.
Shorts.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Disney Airplanes was not, we can't put that on there. I'm sorry. It's not part of Pixar, so we can't do that.
But Planes 2 was.
Was it?
I'm just talking.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. By the way, Jared Enrique says, nice ravishing Rick Rude.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better.
Nobody. Yeah. So we're going to get started on this. Let me go ahead and pull up our photos for our rankings here. Now, we took a lot did a lot to get to this list. There was a lot of back and forth and stuff, but I think ultimately it all came down to watchability, like replay factor. The tearing up factor, I think, was a big one. What made people really, emotional. And then also what was critically acclaimed. What did the critics really love about certain films? Jared, I think, even thrown in like the originality of a film. What separated it from a by the numbers?
Design, script, obviously,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So number 322, actually, on our list is a third. It's Cars 3. Now, I haven't even watched it, and I know it's probably pretty bad. I could be wrong, but it's just not something that after watching the first and being like, this was okay, I didn't really have an urge to watch a sequel or a third. So I kind of left these up into the rankings of the other gentlemen in the group here to see what their thoughts were on these.
I can't argue at all. It was just, I will say this, I couldn't even finish it. Not because it was bad, it was just really boring, and I was like, very much done with the characters, and I did not need to see a resurgence of the characters. So,
I mean,
that's a series that didn't require a trilogy. Like, I don't know what they were thinking.
No,
it's
I'd like to make a really strong point about Cars 3 coming right out of the gate. Now, as you know, guys, we have the smartest audience on the internet, and we also have watched, pop culture films and such our entire life. And I really appreciate how Donald started right out of the gate by saying he didn't even see the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't bother with that one. Sorry. Sorry.
You're okay. You'll be fine.
I mean, I didn't see it either, but I'm not particularly a fan of Pixar films. Spoiler alert. But I have seen a lot of them. It's just really not my cup of tea, but I can acknowledge good when good. Now, I have seen Cars 1 and Cars 2. I just feel like they're over bloated in many ways. They're very long, and they just don't have the same love and appeal that I think other ones do.
Hey, Evan says that, hey, my dudes are going to be my commute listening. So thanks, Evan. We appreciate that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, appreciate it,
always a pleasure having you on the program.
Listening.
Yeah.
I hope it's a 4-hour commute because this is a 4-hour show.
You better sit in your driveway when you get home.
You know we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, you better sit in your driveway when you get home, buddy, because you got to listen to all of it. All of it. So that was 23. We're going to move on, or 22, I mean. We're going to move on to number 21. It's going to be a tough one, let me tell you. I don't think you guys will be able to guess this one. For me personally,
It's another Cars movie, right?
It's very small picture, because it was a very small movie in my heart, and that's Cars 2, yes.
I just remember saying, like, of all the properties that they had for Pixar, like, why? Because they did that one pretty fast. I was like, why did they do a sequel to Cars? And I know they did a different spin. It was like a spy thriller, and Michael Caine was a car, and it was more like, I think, Mater-centric, which was not a good idea. Another movie I couldn't get through because I was bored. And I actually liked the first one, so I just was done with it after the first one. So
you know, it's funny because all across America, people really love Tow Mater because they could just slap a pair of silly eyes on their old rusted up pickup truck and it would look like a decoration and not like an eyesore. So
right.
Bravo for that. I mean, I'll give Cars credit where credit's due. It really helped out a lot of middle Americans with their trashy old vehicles. But as far as a plot and a story, going international, having a little spy thing, that's great and all. But these are ultimately more for children. Like, all these Pixar films tend to usually walk the line between adult and child. And they walk them very well. There's a lot of adult ideas behind it, but a lot of childlike ideas behind it too. So it's a nice blend. Cars didn't seem to care about what the parents thought about anything. It's fart jokes on high speed. I mean, it's just not something that I think was really appealing to anybody over the 10 years of age demographic. So for me, it wasn't something that I was really feeling, and that's why it's so low on the list.
All right.
Yeah. Mom, I did not remember that we had one there in Philly, a Tow Mater type vehicle, but I'm not surprised in New Philadelphia, Ohio, that there is one there. Sammy says she has not seen any of the Cars movies. Sammy, you're not missing out too much, I will say.
I'd see the first one, and maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. This next one, guys, I'm surprised it's so high up on the list, and that's saying something, because I found this movie to be extremely repetitive and not fun and just not a good film. It's Finding Dory.
So here's the thing. And kind of like I think when we talked about the rankings with Tim Burton, Pixar, although Pixar, I don't know, maybe more hit in the last 10 years or whatever, but they went from like anything they put out was gold and original and beautiful. And then they went with, obviously, like, well, this made a lot of money. Let's make a sequel like the Cars franchise and all that, or sold a lot of merchandise. Finding Dory was from a play point where they have such original ideas. This was so like predictable and so a character I didn't need to see a full movie based on her. Like, she was a great side character or partner in the other one. I just remember being bored.
Yeah, it's boring.
I think it's important for our audience to know that I think when we rank these movies, we're ranking them based on a quality of Pixar that a lot of people expect. Now, truth be told, like if Cars 3 was just like a random animated film released by another company, I think people in general would be like, oh, that was kind of fun and enjoyable. You know, if like Sony released it or Universal's Illumination released it, people would think nothing of it. But because Pixar is expected to be of such a high standard, I think it's important for our audience to know we're really just comparing them to other Pixar films.
Right, completely.
Right.
And we're not even hating on sequels because you'll see later we actually give a lot of sequels love. So.
Yep.
Yes.
Chris Duque popped in, everybody. He says, "What's up, y'all?" Hey, Chris. Good to see you.
Chris Duque.
It was a great time last week with you. So Kevin and I very much enjoyed that. So thanks for having us. We appreciate that, buddy.
Yep, got to do it again.
Chris also says Finding Dory wasn't horrible, but these huge companies have to go for the cash grabs as well. They're trying to make that cheddar. I agree. I mean, cars, for example, toy cars are huge with little boys, and that's driving the market. So whenever you can introduce international new cars, of course you're going to do that. You know, that's just something they wanted to do, and I understand that. It's just not for me. Finding Dory, on the other hand, let's not even mention, or actually I do want to mention by saying let's not mention, the fact that the star of Finding Dory is not the most pleasurable person to be around.
Right.
Yes, so we hear. So we hear.
Everybody
Donald,
hears.
You say you are seeking pleasure from... Never mind.
From her pain, yes. I do. I siphon it off. I siphon it off. Ellen DeGeneres, guys, is who I'm talking about. And I for a while, I always thought her name was Ellen Degenerate, and perhaps it should have been. Perhaps it should have been.
But she dances all funny and people love it. But then behind the scenes, she's a murderer.
You know, apparently, yeah, every time somebody, like, out in public would try to get her to dance, she would straight up stab them. She would murder them. It was crazy. Had no idea.
On TV
Number 19. Number 19.
All right, moving on. Darren's like, abort. He's pushing the red button. Okay, we're going to go to 19, guys. All right, number 19. What do we got for 19? This one's going to surprise a lot of y'all, I think. Number 19.
Controversy.
Number 19 we put up on this list for a reason. It's Toy Story 4.
That's harsh.
Toy Story 4 got placed at number 19.
I might have put it a little higher on my list.
Right.
But I don't... Out of all the Toy Story sequels... it was my least favorite. I think it was well written and well executed. I just was happy where it ended it with Toy Story 3, and I didn't want any more.
Chris, you don't have to watch it. Chris says, by the way, he says, Kevin, so much fun. You guys are the best. Yeah, I hear she's less than enjoyable as a person, but I had to meet her to really know. Chris, we agree on that. You'd have to meet her to really know. You haven't seen...
Go on hearsay. Thanks.
Right. Still haven't seen Toy Story 4. I get that. I like Jarrett saying it's not something that we were asking for. Again, I think that this was another one where they're like, let's just make some money and do another one of these films. Toy Story 3 capped it at such a perfect moment that 4 felt so unnecessary that it kind of ruined the glow of the franchise, to be honest.
100% agree on that. That's a perfect way of saying it. Yep.
And that's why, to me, that's why it's so low on the list, because it took the shine off the other 3.
A pure cash grab.
Yep. And it looks like you guys are actually agreeing with us in the comment section. Is it possible for a third or fourth of any movie to be better than its first? Chris, just wait and see. We've got
there are exceptions to the rules.
Plenty more space on this list to go, buddy. So Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 was 19. We're going to go to number 18, guys. Number 18 is one that I found to be an extreme disappointment. Extreme. That is the movie Brave.
Oh.
Now, this movie had some trouble from the start, did it not? Like, 2 different directors?
Yeah, and it was bad because I think they took the female director's credit off and put a male director who got the credit for, and I think it got an award too or something. I don't know. But, yeah, that was bad. This movie to me was weird. Donald, you said it perfect. I said it had more heart, but you said, yeah, it didn't really have much soul to it. And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It had a heartfelt story with the daughter and the mother, but it just was pretty lacking as far as actually kind of pulling, at least for me, pulling me in and actually getting me to care. The coolest thing were like the three twins or the triplets, I thought were the funnest part. But,
and when they had the scene where, like, the mom, I think it was, or somebody got turned into the bear, that's straight out of Brother Bear, like a Disney film that they've already made. It was like
really?
a complete ripoff of that idea of being turned into a bear and you're a human and having to figure out how to get turned back.
I got that message from actually a Pixar expert that I've been consulting. But my biggest, I mean, on the surface, once again, it bears repeating for people that are just jumping in. Like, we're just comparing these to other Pixar movies. Brave is a perfectly fine movie. It's by the numbers. It's awfully predictable. It doesn't blow you away in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's worth mentioning that it's not bad.
No.
It's
It's not terrible. It's just not great. One thing I wanna stress real quick, and that Maria brought up, is the introduction of Forky in Toy Story 4. I feel like Forky is the best new character that they've come out with. Forky's great. I've got no complaints with Forky. In fact, I often refer to myself as trash. So, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So, Maria, you are correct. Forky was a great introduction. Had it been in another movie, I would have loved it even more. But unfortunately, it was in the ending of the ending. I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't want another one. And I don't want another Brave after the first one.
No.
Yeah, and Pete says pretty much the old werewolf mythos. Yeah, kind of. And Brave does feel long, Bonnie. So we're going to move on because we don't want to take too long on Brave. We're going to go to number 17. Now, I know there was a bit of back and forth on this one, but this is where this one landed inevitably. And surprisingly, probably for some of you as well. And that's Incredibles 2.
One of the better sequels, in my opinion, but also I loved Incredibles, the first one, and was waiting for this sequel for a long time. Like, I was shocked, actually, that it didn't come out sooner. That's why I was like, why are they making all these Cars ones? You have, like, a totally easy sequel here with the superhero. Now they're a family superhero team. I didn't think it was bad. I just, nothing on this list was bad to me. I just wanted more from this movie, and I didn't get it.
Yeah. Same here. The giving the baby the superpowers and stuff. It's cute, I guess, but unnecessarily. I think if your movie's trumped by the short film that they put out before it, there's a problem.
Yep.
And I thought Bao, that came out before Incredibles 2, was heartfelt and guttural in laughter, in humor. It was such a good little short film that it made me completely, toned it. I don't know. I tuned out completely on Incredibles 2 because it wasn't very good. It didn't bring anything new to the table, I felt, and Bao did. It was a very good film, and
it made you want a pork bun.
It really did. Yeah, it was delicious. Whether it would have been my child or not, I'd still ate the damn thing.
Yeah.
How could I? Sammy says, "How could you, Donald?" It wasn't just me, Sammy. I'm not the only one that did this. This is a group consensus. I took Jarrett's list.
Sammy, I'm a huge Incredibles fan, and I think it's fine where it's at. I love Incredibles, and this, yeah.
Yeah, and we took everybody's list and we kind of cobbled everything together the best we could. But some things just fall by the wayside, and this is one of them. So we're going to move on from number 17 to number 16 here. Let me pull that one up here real quick. Number 16 is a little too low on the list for me, meaning that I felt it should have been ranked higher personally, but again, this is a group consensus, and I can understand why other people wanted it, farther down on the list, and that would be The Good Dinosaur. And Jarrett has a good argument with this. He really does. So, Jarrett, why don't you go ahead?
So, this was the movie where I'm a huge Disney nerd, so huge Pixar nerd, and anytime there was a Pixar film, I was in the seats. I didn't even care what the topic was. It was just like, it's Pixar, it's going to be great. This, I think, was the first time where Pixar were working on two films simultaneously instead of just one.
Yeah.
I think they were doing Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur.
I think that was it. Something like that. It was 2017, if I recall.
Yeah. So I went to see this film, and it was the first time I was not angry or let down, but just disappointed. I thought it was very formulaic. It was very predictable. And what I like about Pixar films is, especially like a lot of their earlier ones, is you didn't know, like they would kind of surprise you as far as where they would go. It was very intelligent. It wasn't just like yeah, there was most likely going to be a happy ending, but it took some side turns, and it made you how you ended up there was much different than most children's films. This one, I just kind of was like, I know where this is going, and then it went there, and that was it. And it was like Bambi Dinosaur. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to mention that Maria did one time make me a Forky.
Oh,
that's awesome.
So I got a Forky here that she made me.
I've been told, as you know, my list largely was assembled and submitted to you guys by what I view definitely as a Pixar expert. And I was told that Good Dinosaur is the absolute worst Pixar film, and don't let anyone tell you any differently. And I was just messaged by them that there was a pivotal scene that was completely ripped off from Don Bluth's The Land Before Time.
Wow.
I mean, that's not a good look, obviously. It's not a good look, but, you know, I don't know. Like, it's another one of those movies, and I'll agree with Jared. I just don't remember much of anything. I think the dinosaur was green. You know, that's about all I remember. It was kind of weird. John Goodman, of course, is always a good voice to have. But it's insignificant to me.
Maria watched it recently for the first time at my encouragement. It is, by the way, guys, it is the first Pixar film, and maybe the first Disney film, in which hallucinogens are taken. So
that was weird. Yeah, that was a random. That was like, here's one for the adults.
Right, which I found to be hilarious. And the introduction of some of the other characters I thought were really cool, like the Triceratops with all the ornate jewelry, so to speak, with the birds and such. I thought that was clever and fun. The story of the dinosaur being the educated one and the animal being the boy, also fun. And for what it was, I thought it was very enjoyable. Having came out with Inside Out, I believe it was that same year. Inside Out was a major letdown for me personally. So The Good Dinosaur felt like their apology to me, and I was like, okay, I can roll with this. At least I got something decent out of this year with Pixar. So,
with special thanks to Donald McKinney.
Yeah. They did add that, yeah, because I'm the only one that basically really touts this movie as an actual good film. Not a perfect film, but a good Pixar film. But anyway, that's number 16. We're going to move on to number 15. And number 15, it's that old chestnut. We've all heard it before. It's the original Cars.
Yeah. I didn't. Actually, this one kind of grew on me a little bit. I don't think it's one of their best. The placement's fine where it's at. I think what's made it more appealing to me is going to California Adventureland and going to what's the name of the place? The
Cars Land.
Cars Land.
Yeah. And they set it up exactly like the movie. The ride is one of my favorite rides there. The racing one. The Radiator Springs Racers is an awesome ride.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
I think what's kind of needs to be pointed out here, because you got to give the Devils their due. I know obviously this show panel is not big fans of the Cars franchise, but as far as just pure merchandising, this movie is gold. I mean, when you're taking precedent, people had been asking, correct me if I'm wrong, but people have been asking for years, give me sequels to Pixar films. Well, they prioritized Cars 2 over the rest of them, which tells me in many ways that, I mean, if you're trying to get your product out there, let's be realistic. That is something you want to do if you're a production company. Cars is pivotal to Pixar because, I mean, their brand is right down your throat 24/7 with it. And hey, I give them the credit where it's due.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a decent film. I don't hate it. I enjoy it. Rewatchability, I've only ever seen it once. I will say if you have Disney Plus, they have a bunch of little Tomater shorts on Disney Plus, which is great because it's only like 4 or 5 minutes usually of that character, which is all you need in life. And you're in and out, and you're done. So, and they're actually really cute. So I feel like those little shorts are almost as good, if not better, than the original Cars, and definitely better than any of the other sequels that have come up, except for 3 because I haven't seen it, but I assume it's trash. But just going from that, I think that this is a good spot for Cars, number 15, just based upon the story and everything, So it feels like a good spot for it. Real quick, Chris says, it was killing me trying to think about how sentient cars could build entire cities and racetracks with wheels for hands. Yeah, Chris, that definitely does make sense, and I can totally understand how that would be a problem in anybody's thinking. I'm sure my dad was right with you on that, complaining probably to my mother. These are cars. How can they build this city? Joseph has just popped in, so everybody say hello to Joseph.
Hey, what's up? What's up, Joe?
Okay, so that was number 15. That was Cars. We're going to move on to number 14. Number 14, this one killed me, but I accepted it, but this one killed me. And I love this freaking film so much. But again, we took a consensus, and there's some good arguments for this film, so it is where it's at. Number 14 is the film Onward. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen it because it came out not in theaters, or it did maybe for like a minute or two, and then they brought it out on Disney Plus for free for everybody to watch.
Right.
I think it's a phenomenal film about family in brotherhood and just love and caring for each other. And for those that live in the world of D&D and in fantasy realms of Tolkien and such, I think it fits right up your alley, and I think it's well worth your time. That being said, I know Jarrett and Darren had a few thoughts on this one as well.
I will be fair and say I do need to see it again. So this was the one that was released. Was this released right when COVID and everything was hitting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe my mindset for watching a film like this was maybe not the best, and I think it was more like, put it on for the kids because it's something that we need to have hope. Pixar, help us. But I just I will just say that I would definitely need to watch it again. I didn't hate it. I just wasn't following it the way I probably should have been.
Yeah, and we've got some comments real quick. We've got no boo higher. Loved Onward so much. I saw it. It was good. I watched it but got distracted and fell asleep. I need to watch it again. So
I'm in that one.
I mean, my kind of overall thoughts on Onward, Donald, I don't think what you're saying is wrong by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely did have a couple of organic moments in there, especially with their family.
Uh-huh.
My kind of overall thought of it is in many ways that it is a little routine for Pixar in many respects, just the way the beats of their story hit out in their typical films. But it's like, I don't want to use this as an insult because it's really not, but it's kind of like awful in a really entertaining way. Like, because some of the jokes are so sophomoric, but you kind of are like, that's kind of funny, but really stupid. And I think, honestly, like, because Pixar is always trying to be viewed as the intellectual animation and all this kind of stuff, which I respect and I understand that. And I don't want to poo-poo that because it's kind of accurate in many ways. But yeah, I just, the rewatchability is not there for me. I think upon one viewing, I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. But I just also want to make clear, my Pixar expert was a little harsher on it than I was. But I really don't love it either. And but I can see the appeal. Honestly, I get the appeal, and I have no harsh feelings toward it.
Look, Darren, too, I know it's been controversial and all that, and he's kind of got booted out, but you could tell John Lasseter he can join us on this. We could have him here,
And John, we would treat you with the utmost respect, sir.
Oh.
The utmost. Although I think Pete Doctor has a funner name.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm a doctor.
For me, again, it's all about emotionality and rewatchability. This one, tears. My neighbor was over. I know Maria was there. My neighbor was over. My roommate was there. And I'm like, it's allergies, guys. It's just allergies. It's allergies. You know, it was tough for me. This was a really tough film for me to watch in parts because it's just, I just felt it was so well done. So, if you haven't seen it, regardless, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's definitely worth your time. I will say that.
Watch it again because of your emotion.
Now, this is another one that hit me a little hard, guys, and it may have not. It deserves more credit than it got, and I've argued it, but alas, it again, it is where it is, and that's fine. We can discuss and see what you all think, and then we can go, and just talk about it and see who's seen it, because I know some people that haven't even seen it yet. It's one of those films that kind of fell a little bit by the wayside, to be honest, and I think it deserves a watch or a rewatch, and that is the movie Coco. Now, that one came on our list at number 13.
I liked it fine. I just at this point, Pixar was very, 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 very formulaic, and I could tell exactly where the film was going to go. The surprise didn't get me. I knew it was going to go that way. I just, I love the family aspect. I love the Dia de los Muertos stuff. I loved all that. I don't know. Like, I felt like I was like, oh, I know where you're trying to play me on this. I know, like, the heartstrings you're trying to pull, but I saw them a little bit before, so it didn't get me, kind of thing.
Kevin, what are your thoughts? You've been quiet for a second.
Oh, I'm just listening in. For the most part, I agree with what you're saying. Yes, some of these later Pixar films, unfortunately, are formulaic and trying to manipulate you, just as Jared said, trying to play those heartstrings where you see where it's coming. And
we're getting hit.
Where they need to bring your boy Lasseter back for sure. Got to get this whole thing back on track.
We're getting hit in the comments here. You crazy? Oh my God, higher. That was so good. So good, you should have consulted the audience. Tisk tisk. This one is wrong. Higher on the list. Yeah.
Okay, so I've just been buzzed in by my resident Pixar expert. They generally agree with Jarrett, but wanted to make sure the point is known that the music is great.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music is great.
That's the best part. Yeah.
Didn't they play the music at the Oscars too, I think, or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think all Jared's trying to say is it's just not a complete film. That's all he's trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think he has poo-poo in his pants.
Hey, look, Pixar wants to set the high bar. We're going to hold him to the high bar. I mean, it's really not that complex. They set the bar. Let's hold him to the bar.
Okay, well, we're going to hold him to the bar, guys, with number 12. Are you ready for number 12?
Yeah, let's do it.
And I really pushed for this one, too. And maybe unrightfully so, but I love this freaking movie so much. I can't get enough of it. It has such rewatchability for me. It's just a fun film, and that's Monsters University.
I would have put this higher too, actually. It's because I've rewatched it with the kids, and it's a very, very fun sequel. What was great about it is they made it a prequel. So, once again, if you were happy with how Monsters, Inc. ended, you didn't have to it wasn't a forced, what are they doing now? And let's come up with something. It was like, what were these people like in college? How did they meet? And Donald, you said it perfectly before. It's Pixar meets Animal House. It's super fun.
Yeah. It's the most G-rated, R-rated film you would get, I think. And it's a lot of fun with the fraternities and stuff, and what they have to do, and where they get placed and stuff, and the oddballs they get placed with. It's very enjoyable. Chris Turner says this is the one I haven't seen. Chris, shame on you. Shame on you. You should have watched this ages ago. Chris, I think you'll love it. You definitely have to watch this film. Bonnie says this one was a lot of fun. Bonnie, we tend to agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's just now we're getting into a point where there's a lot of tough competition.
Yeah.
And you're going to know as we start getting closer what this competition is, of course. But there's a lot of tough competition that came in. And unfortunately, we just, based upon everybody's rankings, we just couldn't place this one any higher without offsetting a few of the other films that we all really enjoy and love. Most of them, anyway, I will say. So this was number 12, Monsters University. Let's go ahead and go with number 11.
I would like to take number 11, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Well, this goes to 11.
It does. These go to 11. All right, is the picture up?
The picture is now up. It's a small one, but it's up.
This is A Bug's Life. So here's the thing about A Bug's Life. We have to remember this is early in the Pixar timeline.
Yep,
Okay.
98.
This was a very hyped movie. I was 16, 17. I remember this was really heavily hammered. And I'll tell you, before I was going to see this movie, because just be straight up, I'm not the biggest animated fan, but before I was going to see this movie, because everyone was going to see this movie, right? It was everywhere you could see it. I saw the movie Ants right beforehand, okay? And I loved Ants. It was so off color. It was so bizarre to have Woody Allen as the lead voice. That's just so strange to me. And Stallone and Chris Walken and Kevin Spacey and Sharon Stone and all them. And I'm like, this movie's kind of great, right? So by the time I moved into Bug's Life, I'm like, this is kind of mediocre by comparison. Now, the animation in Ants is nowhere near as good as A Bug's Life. It's not even close. But also, too, like Bug's Life, to me, I just, it didn't move me one way or another. I know you shouldn't say that about the movie that's literally right in the dead center of our list, but it just didn't move me the same way, and I think it was because of Ants.
I like both movies. They were fun. Both were fun.
Ants is dark.
It was the second film, right, that came out from Pixar?
Yes.
Yeah, so for me it was, and I saw it way later on. I enjoyed it. I like it a lot. I think it was what they did with Toy Story and the story they told was so much more deep and beautiful, whereas A Bug's Life was like a kind of hero's journey that we've kind of seen before, but had a lot of elements that I liked. You know, the motorcycle gang,
Grasshoppers.
Yeah, Grasshoppers. Was an interesting spin. Obviously, the best part, I think, for me, and I think most people would agree, would be the circus bugs. They were great.
Yeah.
They were kind of at the heart of the story.
Who's the big caterpillar dude? The Hans or something? Heimlich. That's it. I loved Heimlich. Yeah. And to be honest, this film, I'm glad you guys reminded me about it because it's been so long since I've seen it, and I honestly didn't remember enough about it. I remembered more about, again, Darren, Ants. I remembered more about that. I think that just stuck with me more. And not because, per se, it's the I'm not saying it's the better film. It's just, to me, it was the more memorable of the two because it did have a lot of more adult elements to it, whereas A Bug's Life was more childlike because it was for kids more. And that's fine. But yeah, I think that A Bug's Life is a perfectly fun film, and it's a nice family film, in other words. So it is enjoyable, and we're getting a lot of comments here for Heimlich, so yay for Heimlich to be brought up. Yeah. Chris says he loved...
By Joe Ranft, who was a storyboard guy for Disney and Pixar. Tragically passed way too soon, but he was like a very beloved storyboard artist and presenter for Disney and Pixar.
Yeah, sorry. That's never a pleasurable thing when someone goes, but sometimes when they create something memorable, you know, it's a nice thing to have. You know.
What'd you do to Forky? What's going on there?
I don't know. He's been pestering me all day, guys. He knew that this was coming, and he's been wanting to get on screen so bad, and I put him on screen for like a second, but apparently it wasn't enough.
By the way, for all of our big fans out there, John Rand, who you just mentioned, Jarrett, actually voiced Heimlich.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And he was crazy good, too, as that character. Very good. Very memorable. Heimlich is very memorable. And that was number 11, A Bug's Life. We're going to move on to a big gun, guys. This is our top 10 Pixar films. And number 10 is a huge film. Huge film. And that would be Toy Story 2. It's a huge film, but a small picture, again. But that's it. Number 10, Toy Story 2.
I like Toy Story 2. I think Toy Story 2 is actually supposed to go straight to DVD. But people started seeing it and going, wait, this is really good. I think we actually have a chance if we release this to the theaters. And they obviously got the whole cast back. And I love this film. You know, the introduction of Jesse and Bullseye, the horse, and like Woody's origin story, if you will, about that he was actually like a kind of 50s cowboy, you know, howdy doody kind of character. And I know I really love this film. The Owl Toy Barn and everything.
You know, obviously, spoiler alert, it won't happen on this list, but for a long time, people were making the case that this was better than the original Toy Story. I see what they're saying. I just think that not just our list, but I think in general, I completely disagree. I just not there. I'm not there. I think the first one is probably a little better, a little more memorable. But I understand the appeal because people love Joan Cusack as that character.
Yeah, she did a bang-up job. Chris says, Duque says, big one, they really hit the mark on the sequel. Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely did. This is why it's so high up on our list. They really knocked it out of the park. As far as sequels are concerned, this is an amazing sequel. It's really well done. It's a strong film, a strong entry into the Toy Story catalog, definitely.
And an original story, too. It wasn't just like, let's see where these characters are going. You know, it was very interesting because it gave Woody that moral dilemma of like, I found my roots. Do I embrace them or do I stick with the people who got me here and that love me?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to go to number 9 on the list. Number 9. Get ready, guys. It's a big one. Finding Nemo, everybody. Number 9 on our list.
Spoiler alert, Donald and I are on the same page on this one. So, Jarrett, do you want to start?
Finding Nemo is cute. It's a good father-son story. The animation, I think, is probably the best part of it. I think it's very well animated. It was the first time they did underwater. Forky, what the? Sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. Sorry I yelled at you. Sometimes Dad gets angry. I think the animation was the best part of this movie. I think the story was sweet. You know, the Dory character wasn't annoying at that point.
Right.
But, yeah, I think, you know, it's high up on the list because it was, you know, one of those earlier ones. And it did set the bar as far as I think for animation-wise. You know, it was the first time they did underwater for Pixar and computer animation underwater. So, it's got rewatchability, but it's not as, I think, fun as some of the other ones that might have even been lower on our list. So,
right. Yeah. If it was up to me, I would have chucked it a little farther back. But, you know, just particularly because I love the idea of Dory's character, but I find her to be extremely annoying. Like, to a level that it ruins things for me. It's like if they wanted to ruin anything in my life, they would bring Dory in. And that would be it. Like, just bring Dory in. I could wait for hours at a doctor's office, but if they brought Dory in, I couldn't stand it. I would have to leave. Like, it's just one of those I just can't. I can't deal with it. Just a little too much for me.
So your sequel would be Forgetting Dory.
Completely Forgetting Dory. Yeah, that would have been the sequel.
So a little film 101 to kind of get into my mind a little bit here. In regards to Dory, annoying people in real life drive you crazy. Annoying characters on screen can work very well. The best annoying character actor I know of is Sean William Scott. Stifler and his role in The Rundown are absolutely great characters, but he's severely irritating, and it works on screen. Problem is, Dory did irritate me, sure. I have to agree with Jarrett, and I think it's important to point it out why it's high on our list, because we have to try to be objective as we can. I know, stunning and brave, right? But, like, we have to be objective because this is the brand of Pixar. Movies like this set their brand. But in reality, to be honest with you, I would have rather sat through Shark Tale another time.
Wow, that's saying something.
But by the way, Bruce, of course, the character in Finding Nemo, for all those out there, was named after Bruce in Jaws.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point.
But and I will say this. I'm a huge Albert Brooks fan. Very happy he had a lead role in this.
Yeah, agreed. And there's some creative elements as well, you know, being in the little baggies and being in the water and stuff. It's very cute in a lot of ways. Just not one that has much rewatchability for me personally.
Yeah.
So let's go to number 8. Number 8 is way too high on the list for me. And this is the one where Darren and I clashed, butted heads until they got really red. This one, let me see if I can find it here real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, this one I found to be, I just didn't like it really at all. I was really surprised. It was critically acclaimed, but it wasn't my cup of tea. That's Inside Out.
Oh.
So let me take this one then. So this was more or less sent to me by my resident Pixar expert. Their reasoning behind it is, I'm going to try to paraphrase here. It's really cool how they delve into each area of the brain. No one ever wants to be sad, but they really show that it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's just a fascinating movie to watch about the inner workings of your mind, and it's impressive every time you watch it. So I agree with all that. My thing with Inside Out, we're going to have a movie coming up here. I won't say what it is later on the list that I think is a very niche audience movie that has a Pixar banner with it. Inside Out, conceptually to me, is meant for a very niche audience, but it's better than the movie that we will reveal later, in my opinion, because this movie is way more accessible to the public. Because there's a lot of deep stuff going on in Inside Out. There's a lot of great stuff, but obviously, like, Pixar had to give you those little childish laughs, those little corny laughs, because they don't want to risk alienating you. So in some ways, can that bring it down? Sure. Yeah. But I'm amazed with how they got away with this movie, making it very high concept, yet very accessible. And to me, I think that's a really admirable thing. And only Pixar probably could have done something like this.
Guys,
Anger and Sadness are my favorite. I love Anger and Sadness. They crack me up.
Completely.
Can we?
My feelings on this film are and have varied. I saw the film and I loved the film. I thought it was great. When I heard the idea that it was a Pixar movie about the emotions inside a young girl, I was like, well, I got to see how they do this. Like that's a very original selling point. So for me, the script alone deserves all the praise because it's such an original idea and such an interesting concept to produce, and they did a fantastic job. I have 2 daughters, and my oldest daughter, like, if we gave her the list, this would be her number 1. So seeing it through her eyes,
got it.
I have a very specific love and place for it in my heart because it's like literally like her therapy. Like it's like a movie that like she's like, yes, this is how I can
right
see and deal with these things. So for that, that's where I'm coming from on it.
Hey Jared, did you like that dinner scene with the parents and like all the emotions and all 3 people are going crazy and they're all in their controls activating all of the different.
That was one of the best tags at an end of a Pixar film is showing everybody's group of emotions in their brain. The mom, the dad, the other people, because we were just mainly with the girl. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Let's not forget our hats off here to Richard Kind for his performance as Bing Bong.
That's right. Yeah.
What a fantastic performance. The most, to me, memorable character in this entire film is Bing Bong, doing something so heroic and noble, yet so incredibly tragic. He's a great character with a great character arc inside of a a bit meandering story. I can completely understand where you're coming from, Jarrett. That would make sense. I do remember what it was like to grow up as a young boy, not a young girl. And with a young boy, I think we would just have the red guy with the temper, at least with me anyway, and he just had all the buttons, and that was it. So there was that. But
you had 5 Lewis Blacks in your head.
Yeah.
Something interesting. Pixar always is known as a great innovator. My resident Pixar expert has just alerted me that Inside Out is the first and potentially only Pixar film that actually does not have an antagonist.
That's
You
true.
know what? I think that's yeah.
And also too, just because we have some real Pixar fans out there, we want to feed the beast with knowledge. John Ratzenberger, who has had a voice in every single Pixar film, this is the second time he's voiced a construction worker. And he was Up in Up as well, and he was also as Foreman Tom, and then he was Fritz, and only appeared at the end of the film in Inside Out. So,
well, that's the thing. Ratzenberger has that Pixar has a lot of Easter eggs, and 2 of the big ones are Ratzenberger always has a voice.
Yes,
and the Pizza Planet truck is in every film in some way. Even in Brave, it's like a carved out truck in the background at the witches.
I'll be dang. I did not know
and
that.
don't forget A113.
And A1, yeah, that's right.
All right, we're gonna go move on to our next one. Our next one is number 7. Jarrett, you're gonna be happy with this movie. Not necessarily the placement of the film in our list, but with the movie, the original, The Incredibles, the Fantastic Four movie we all deserved but never got.
Totally. For me, I'd put it top 5 just because I thought Brad Bird really put his mark on Pixar as far as being an individual director. He was the first one who you were like, that's a Brad Bird Pixar film. He kind of went, I think, a little more adult on some themes and definitely had his own voice. To me, it's the Fantastic Four we wanted. It's so good. What I love really about this film is the style. It's got that kind of 1950s kind of old school look to it, very Art Deco building designs. I love that. And it's just fun to see this, the superheroes that had to retire and what their life is like. And then, getting back into the game. The midlife crisis of Mr. Incredible and his wife, Elastigirl, was just so, interesting. And then dealing with their 2 kids, I love this film.
I'm sure the audience out there will find it slightly bizarre that this film would not be number 1 on a podcast called The Real Short Box. But hey, look, I'm just this is what we go with. Now, of course, real quickly, and I'll let Donald get to this as he is a huge fan of this. Edna Mode was actually based off of fashion designer Edith Head.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Chris 2K says it was incredible. See what I did there? Yes, Chris. We saw what you did there. Well done. Yeah, again, this is the Fantastic Four that we never got. And coming from a comic book podcast such as we are, we take a lot of liberties with our live podcasts here on YouTube. And one of those is we talk a lot about movies and films and stuff, but we always find a way to relate them back. This is the number 1 relation to a comic book. This is a comic book. This is the Fantastic Four, in other words. This is the stretchy, the strength, the invisibility, the speed. There's not necessarily flaming at first there. I mean, there is in the second one, but not in the first one like we would expect, but there's the speed element in that. So all of these characters are somewhat versions of the Fantastic Four characters that we knew and loved, just done in a correct way. And it made us all beg Brad Bird, please do a Fantastic Four film. And it just never happened. And if it did happen, it still could happen. And Marvel, if you're listening, you need to do this. This needs to happen. I'm sorry. There's no other way around it. This is the comic book film that you haven't done yet correctly, and it needs to be done.
And Bird was the first Pixar director to transition to live action. He was that sought after from these films.
Yeah. Iron Giant was another one he did, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And for all you giant Pixar fans out there, this is the only Pixar film with just 1 writer.
How about that?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's number 7, The Incredibles. We're going to go to number 6 now. We're moving into the big dogs. This might not be high enough on the list for some of you, and I apologize, but again, this is a group consensus, so it is where it is. That is movie Up.
All right. For me, this is their best. Now, granted, what we will pick as our best, very close, and I see all the arguments. This is one of 3 animated films to actually be nominated for Best Picture, Beauty and the Beast and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs being the others. This is one of those movies that gets those Pixar corny moments and limits them as much as possible. Mostly with, Doug the dog. But, there's not a lot of laugh out loud moments, in my opinion. And also, too, the little Boy Scout kid is a perfect annoying character, like we spoke about earlier. It's a great annoying character. This is like the warmest Pixar movie ever. In fact, I mean, this to me, I call it the best Pixar film just based on the opening credits. I mean, those opening credits are unbelievable. How you can tell a story with literally no dialogue in a 3 to 5 minute opening is really unbelievably impressive to me. And this is a movie that everyone is affected by loss, and everyone is affected by how do you take the next step. And this is kind of their perfect movie. And as a person who's not a giant Pixar fan, I love this movie. This is great. I've seen this multiple times. I think it still holds up. It's still relevant. Ed Asner is a known actor, but not a huge movie star. And he was perfect. This is excellent work. This is probably going to be Pixar's quintessential classic, I think, 10 years from today.
Enrique says... Enrique says it should be up higher on the list.
Yes.
I would have no argument with that either. I think as far as originality, emotion, it's a solid, original, beautiful film. Those opening credits, I don't know if you guys saw it in the theater, the whole audience was like, oh God. Crying, or like some parents were like, I didn't know I was going to have to teach my kid about death so soon. Oh no, because the little kids were like, oh my God, what's going on? But
it's a tear.
The transition from locales, you go from a neighborhood to a house that is floating with balloons to a jungle theme, to this crazed, ex-explorer, also teaches you don't always want to meet your heroes. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. No, I think Up is absolutely a brilliant film.
I think it's great. I think the beginning has all the emotionality there. It really just jerks those tears out of your body involuntarily. There's no other way around it. It's going to happen. If you didn't tear up at least a little bit, you don't have a soul. It's a great film for that. Story-wise, the introduction of the child and the dog are fantastic. I just felt they relied a little bit too much on that dog and the bird and things along the way. And that story got a little bit odd for me. It's not where I expected something like this to go. And it's not something that I thought worked 100%. I felt it worked, just not 100%. And that's why, to me, it's not up any higher on the list. But it is a great film in a lot of ways.
You can just see the suits sitting there being like, hey, you need to put some goofy character in there for the kids. You can say, because I do agree, there are some forced issues there. What I'm impressed with is how they limited that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And the villain, Charles Muntz, by the way, a very similar name to Charles Mintz, the Universal executive in 1928, who stole Walt Disney's production rights to his highly successful Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon series, which led Walt Disney to create Mickey Mouse.
Wow, another interesting tidbit. Thank you, Darren. I'm going to close out Up now, and we're going to go top 5, everybody. Top freaking 5. Top 5 list. Here we go. Number 5 on our list. Guys, why this isn't any higher on the list, please hear us out. Hear us out. Please hear us out. I know it's going to make some people angry, but please hear us out.
Get
We
him,
have
Sammy.
much to
Get
say.
him, Sammy. Get him.
That is the movie, Kevin. That is the movie Toy Story, guys. Toy Story is number 5 in our list of all-time rankings of Pixar filmed classics.
I mean, it's the original. I think on the top 5 anywhere is admirable. Like, that's where it should be. That's fine, in my opinion. Your introduction to Woody the cowboy and Buzz Lightyear, the new space toy, and the whole story about the, I mean, that was pretty much based on that, like the space race, how space toys took over for the cowboy toys, and with the whole space race and everything.
Infinity and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great microcosm for everything that happened out in the real world.
Well, and also it made everybody feel very guilty about throwing away all their old toys.
Sure.
I mean, if you're just going by pure Pixar branding, these are the most well-known characters in the Pixar universe, and it's probably not even close. So making this number 1 is a little too easy in many respects, which is why we're going to keep it at 5. Obviously, it's hard to believe it's 25 years old now, but some of the things that were not perfected were perfected in later Pixar films. Pixar had a nice ascent for many years of making movies that were better than their previous movies and outdoing themselves, but it had to start somewhere. And why not with the richest character universe in Pixar?
Yeah.
We got a couple.
Just such a brilliant idea of toys coming to life when the child leaves the room is like what kid didn't imagine that, in the back of their head, like, I wonder what my toys do, and
right.
It was just brilliant.
It gave justification to all those imaginations, throughout all the years, and that was a fantastic thing about this film. A few comments. Chris Duque says, "Oh wow, I was wondering what number 1 is going to be. I was thinking this one would be number 1." Yeah, Chris, we're going to surprise you. Joseph says makes sense. So Joseph, I'm glad you agree there on the ranking. And we're going to move on from number 5 from Toy Story, and we're going to go to number 4 real quick here. Let me bring that up. Number 4 on our list might come as a surprise to a lot of you, but it's just a fantastic film, and it should inspire you to go out and create your best dish. This is the movie Ratatouille, everybody. Sitting at number 4.
First off, say I hate this film. I can't stand it. Oh wait, then why did I put that backdrop? No, I love this. I mean, for me personally, if this was 1, I love Ratatouille. I think it's just a beautiful film. Once again, Brad Bird showing his diversity. So he goes from Incredibles to this, which I thought was brilliant. It's got Patton Oswalt, who's one of my favorite comedians, voicing Remy the Rat. The whole culinary world was so wonderfully displayed, and the idea of having a rat be a great chef, or a master chef, is beautiful. I thought the film itself, you don't really think of lighting when you think of an animated film, but the lighting in this film, like in the kitchen scenes and the restaurant scenes, is absolutely beautiful. Like, it's this soft lighting with this glow. You've got the kitchen, the brightness of the kitchen, with the backdrop of Paris. I thought it was a very original film. I thought it was one of those films where the human in it was actually the least exciting part. You wanted to see the rat, and what his life was like. The human was just the vessel for him to cook. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say enough good. And the villain, Anton Ego, the food critic who won't put anything in his mouth if he or he won't swallow if he doesn't like it.
Remy's introduction to food and combining, I think it was a strawberry with a piece of cheese.
Yes.
And seeing the flavor burst combination in his head, and knowing that we've all had that moment when we've dipped Red Hot Cheetos into cottage cheese. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
These flavor combinations inspire people. And to quote the great, what was his name, Gusteau?
Yeah.
Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great. So
yeah.
It was a really cool idea and a really cool story. And as somebody that spent 11 years in the kitchen and cooked professionally, like I did, it inspired me to want to get back in there and and make some things and do some things. And anytime a movie inspires someone that's moved on from a profession to want to dip their toes back in that profession, that says a lot about that film. It says a lot about you as a person as well, but it says more about that film and how inspiring it can be. And I hope we got a bunch of little cooks out of it, because they did, in the DVD release, they put a little cookbook thing in there. They created a whole DVD about recipes and stuff, and cooking with some of the chefs and stuff I think that they consulted along the way, and just a phenomenal presentation package for this movie, which is a very creative film and a very cute, very brightly lit, perfectly lit film. And the music was fantastic, the story was great, all the characters are great, the villain was fun. This movie fired on all cylinders. It's a great film.
He's a rat and he's a cook. I'm not going to approve of this movie, because then Pixar might create a cockroach that bakes cakes. I don't want either.
Well, they did make a cute cockroach, which we'll get to.
Yep.
And
Darren, if the cake's good, I'm not caring who baked it.
See, I do. Cockroach is a disease-carrying insect.
Yeah, but they baked the cake. The heat kills all the bacteria and the germs, buddy.
Oh, if it were only that simple.
If it's cut and serving it to you with its bare hands, I'd have a problem with it. But if it's using utensils, I'm fine. It's whatever. Moving on. Moving on to number 3 on our list, guys. This one might be tough for you all as well. You might argue that we don't know what we're talking about, and that this movie should be higher up on the list. And I can't say technically that I disagree, or I also can't say that I completely agree, and there'll be reasons why that'll be forthcoming. This is Kevin's favorite film, so Kevin, why don't you take this one to start out? That is the movie WALL-E.
Oh, WALL-E and Eva. To me, this is one of the most realistic of Pixar films. That's something that could actually happen in the future. I mean, there's so many themes, so many things going on with, the way many companies operate, the way we treat the environment, obesity. It's just crazy. I mean, when you first meet WALL-E and you meet Eva, to me, they're like the best characters in the whole movie. I actually despise the humans in the movie. I mean, they're all in those Professor X type chairs. They're just, it's just such a sad life they're living.
Everything with the straw, right? You can suck everything with the straw.
Yeah, it's such a sad life they're living, in the future on a spaceship. And I'm saying to myself, it really affected me. I'm like, my God, I can see this happening in the deep future if we keep going down the path we are as humans. So. Yeah. It's quite a film. It's a very powerful film.
The introduction of Eva is great. In her romantic inclinations with WALL-E, or his with hers, is so cute. It's cute to see robots have these emotions and the humans be so void of really anything.
If anything, the robots are really more human, and the humans are more like robots. That's the irony of it all.
Yep.
Well, what is it? WALL-E watches that old film, which was actually a real old film that he's watching, with the dancing and the singing and
Hello, Dolly, sir.
Yeah, Hello, Dolly. And then they had a cockroach. They made it an endearing cockroach character who was pretty much like WALL-E's pet.
Yeah, that's why it's lower on my list.
Yeah, the unkillable cockroach. But you got to think the script for that movie, the first 20, 30 pages is literally just direction, because there's no real lines, aside from WALL-E and Eva, it's pretty interesting. I think it's a phenomenal film. I think it's another big original film for Pixar as far as like
classic.
Go ahead.
I was saying, it's basically, 2008 was a pretty good year for movies, and that's just another classic movie from that 2008 year.
And let me bring up the fact that for Earth Day, for a couple years now, Funko Pop Toys have brought out a Disney WALL-E character in the box, and the box is recycled. It's a recycled box, and they bring it out on Earth Day. And they did it first with WALL-E, and then they brought out the Eva character, and she's holding the little plant. And it's just adorable that it sparked that creativity, that originality, and that thoughtfulness on Earth Day, on taking care of the environment. and showed that to kids. And that's an important, extremely important thing right now, considering our climate and what we're going through. Because, like it or not, climate change, there's things that are happening. And we have to take care of ourselves, each other, and everybody else. And this movie is helping push that along. And I love it for that. I love the story that it tells, that we have to look out after each other. And that's a beautiful thing.
First live action stuff. Didn't we have Fred Willard in this too? Fred Willard had a small part.
Fred Willard's great. But obviously you're going to need a somewhat dissenting opinion on WALL-E. So WALL-E, let's talk about the pros for me. It's their most niche movie. I would call it probably its most bold, Pixar's boldest movie in many respects. But why I would definitely be flopping Inside Out with this one is they're both high concept, but Inside Out is way more on brand for Pixar than WALL-E is. I think when they released WALL-E, I don't think they knew what kind of response they were going to get. And I think it's important, just for purposes of this countdown, because we have to consider everything. When you're trying to preserve the brand of Pixar, WALL-E is something that a bunch of guys in our age group might be talking about. But I don't think kids are going to warm up to this in the same way they would other Pixar films.
No, this is their darkest film, I think, by far.
It suffers a little bit for me from what I like to call Blade Runner syndrome. It's visually so impressive and it's so imaginative, but the story never really gripped me as much as the visuals of the movie will grip you. It's kind of hard to unsee the people floating in their chairs. It's kind of hard to unsee the trash planet, but there's just not a connection there for me. It's, unless you're looking for a more niche kind of independent style thing, then it's very effective at that. But as far as just massive appeal, I don't know. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah. You'll get there. Trust me. You'll get
there.
And
I think
plus it's like J5 too.
Not all these films are to necessarily have to be enjoyed at a young age. They can be cultivated and enjoyed later, as you mature and you understand. You might not get it when you're 5, but when you're 15, you're going to be like, oh, and that happens. We fall into these films later in life too, and maybe WALL-E will have more legs than what we think for that exact reason. Only time will tell. But we need to move on to number 2 on our list. How can there be anything? We've just listed so many greats. How can we have anything higher? Maria's arguing. She's up in arms. She says, now all of my top 5 have already been mentioned, which means that all your other choices are wrong. Hee hee. So, Maria, I think you're going to change your tune when you hear number 2 on the list, because number 2 is a big one for me. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love this film. You could probably tell by my hat that I'm a fan of this. This is Monsters, Inc. This is number 2 on our list. Monsters, Inc. hits everything that you need in a classic Pixar film. The characters are endearing. They're interesting. The villain is completely fascinating and so slimy, kind of slithery, sneaky that you don't even want him around. The side characters in it are fun. The story itself is fun. The young girl in it, that's the relatable element for kids, is absolutely adorable. It's just a classic Pixar animated film. And one of the absolute best.
I think it's just I think it hits all the right fun, it's a beautiful looking film with the colors of the monsters and all that. The idea that it's a job to be a monster, you got to get the screams, so you can light your city is great. One of my, because I tie a lot of stuff to Disneyland and stuff like that. There's I don't know if they're gonna keep it, but God, it's such a fun little dark ride they have in California Adventureland. But there's a Monsters Inc. Ride that my wife and I just stumbled on once, and we're like, oh, this is super fun. But it just celebrates the funness of that film. I think it's not high concept. It's pretty straightforward. what are monsters like in real life, kind of thing. What is their day to day? What if monsters were people, pretty much?
Right, and this is a great one for kids that are suffering from the classic monster in the closet syndrome or monster under my bed, showing you that they can be lovable and enjoyable. I think if I had a young child and they were suffering from that, I'd be like, I have something to show you.
So you're trying to say, Jarrett, that ride at Disneyland is better than the Finding Nemo submarine?
Yes.
That ride, by the way, according to Bonnie, is Mike and Sully to the rescue. So thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
All right. So just one fact about it. So Mary Gibbs, who played Boo, was actually so young that it proved difficult to get her to stand in the recording studio and act her lines. Instead, they simply followed her around with a microphone and cut Boo's lines together from things she said while she played. And Boo's name is Mary.
Adorable. That is adorable. Chris brings up a fun fact. He says, I love the interdimensional door portals. I don't think that's something we mentioned. And Chris, I agree. It's fantastic that these doors lead to other dimensions and stuff. It's a very clever, very interesting way to introduce you to other areas that this story can go in the future. And
also,
it was
just hit me as we were talking about it, because I was talking Big Lebowski with somebody the other day. Donnie, Steve Buscemi, is the villain and gets to fight Walter Slovacek, whatever, from John Goodman.
Yeah.
So it's a Big Lebowski connection in there, too.
True. There's a Big Lebowski fight. So it's just a really great film. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's number 2 on our list. So now we need to move on for time's sake to number 1 on our list. And guys, if those of you have been doing the math or the calculations, you know which one it is. And for those of you that don't, well, surprise, it is part of a trilogy. It is the 3rd one. And by all accounts, it is the best Pixar film in all of Pixar's canon. That would be Toy Story 3.
Yeah, I have no arguments. I saw this in the theater, I think, 3 times. It is a beautiful film. Should have been the ending to the trilogy because it's such a perfect ending. It's such a perfect ending. The guy still has his connection to his toys, even though he's going to college, and he doesn't get rid of them. He passes them on so another child can get the same joy he got out of them. I mean, come on, like, and it's also the time you're like, oh no, toys are gonna die, and you're like crying as all the toys are holding hands going into the incinerator. I mean, Jesus Christ.
How traumatic is that, right?
The villain is so great. Lots of hugging bear. Oh my God.
Strawberry scented, by the way.
I mean, I'm still going to roll with Up, but I'm not mad about Toy Story 3 because it's really tight to me. I think Toy Story 3, it is the quintessential Pixar film in terms of how they tell stories. It hits all the beats just perfectly. It has, of course, that great scene at the end that you talked about, and Ned Beatty voiced as Lotso. I think it's really unfortunate because people forget Ned Beatty, what a great actor he is, and then he comes Ned Beatty. That gets you through the first couple minutes, and you're like, wow, he's really good in this. And those kind of things, surprises, make you feel good as a viewer. And once again, like I said, I mean, this is like your quintessential Pixar story. This kind of formula is what has made them so popular for so long. And they get it all right in many respects here. And they do not futz with the integrity of Toy Story.
No.
Yeah.
Plus, you got Michael Keaton as Ken from Ken and Barbie doing a bang-up job.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so many fun characters in this film with the daycare toys meeting the at-home toys and the hierarchy of the daycare toys and the preschool room and
oh my God, yeah,
just brilliant. And the great escape scene with Mr. Potato Head putting his pieces on a tortilla. I mean, just so much. Oh God, it's just so much. And they actually give you a reason why Lotso is so angry. Like they actually see that, but
yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's just such a good film.
We got a few comments here. Chris Duquet says it totally should have been the last one. We agree. That's why Toy Story 4 is so...
Oh, I thought he meant it should be the last film on the list. I was like, wow, that's a polar opposite.
No.
Last
film. Yeah. So he's agreeing with us. He said he cried his eyes out as well. Bonnie says if this movie doesn't make you cry, you have no heart.
and your name is Bonnie too, so you definitely have a connection.
Right.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that phrase a lot about movies. You know.
Joe.
I say the same thing about Backdraft.
Joseph is clapping for it. He must be a fan as well. It is a fantastic film, guys. Those that haven't seen it, please, 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 please go find it. In fact, one thing I found interesting was when I first got my Blu-ray player. This was the first movie that was gifted to me from someone that had it but didn't have a Blu-ray player, never had a Blu-ray player, but explicitly had this film and was like, "Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So the first ever Blu-ray movie I've ever owned was Toy Story 3, and I would say that's a very memorable, perfect film to have to be your first introduction into a new type of system like that.
Totally. Yeah.
Just a great film. And guys, in the comment section, real quick before we go, if anybody wants to name their number one choice, feel free to do so. We're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes as we have just ended our ranking of Pixar films. So thank you so much for being a part of this. We always have fun with these. We haven't quite gotten to figure out exactly what we want to do for next week, but I can guarantee you, again, it's going to be another fun one. So please join us next week, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube live for another great conversation. Thanks, Chris. He said, great show tonight. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you, Chris, of course, and everybody else in the comment section that's tuned in, and those that tune in later to watch this. We all appreciate you as well. Maria says Wally is her number one. My mom says, I want to say good night, gentlemen. Be safe out there. Thank you, Mom. I'm sure they appreciate it. Thanks, Maria. We appreciate having you on here as well in the chats. Always enjoy your activity on there. Joseph says, another great show. Night, guys. Good night, Joseph.
Thank you.
Please find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can reach out to us there if you have any podcast recommendations. We're really open to taking those recommendations. We have a number of podcast platforms that you can find us on for our audio podcast besides YouTube, where we do both audio and video. And some of those podcasts are
Google Play,
iHeartRadio, Spreaker,
Stitcher, iTunes, Blueberry.
Yep, Spotify and a few others as well. Tune in, I believe. Just a ton. So if we haven't named it, odds are if you get on it, we're probably on there. And if we're not, we will be soon, because we're constantly looking for new platforms to put our podcast up on. So we really appreciate you guys. We appreciate you tuning in, and thank you. And if we don't see you out and about anytime soon, perhaps someday moving forward, we will see
We'll
you.
See you at the safe, luscious, precious, homely comic book
shop.
I want to do my Lee Corso wave goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Always a pleasure.
Be safe out there.
Always fun.